My name is James Anderson. I'm a senior behavioral scientist at the RAND Corporation. Recently, I looked into autonomous vehicle technology and some of the advantages and disadvantages and the way that policymakers can shape the policy environment in order to realize the advantages and minimize the disadvantages. So there are a bunch of different potential advantages. The first is probably the reduction in crashes. Currently today, in one of the last years, there are about more than 30,000 Americans lost their lives. Similarly, the actual financial costs of automobile crashes are also quite large. There are also really large advantages in terms of mobility. Currently, tens of thousands of Americans are unable to drive due to disability or age. There's also potentially large advantages with respect to congestion. Because human beings aren't particularly good drivers, one has to leave a fair amount of distance between cars on the roadway today. With autonomous vehicle technology, you can potentially double or even triple the capacity of existing roadways. Similarly, along with the actual reduction in congestion, there's also the likelihood of the cost of congestion. If one can actually undertake another activity while in the vehicle, this reduces the overall cost of driving and the cost of transportation sizably. And finally, sort of the last set of interesting advantages that really have to do with land use. So currently about 30% of Los Angeles, for example, is devoted to surface parking. And that's because almost all establishments, either commercial or residential, need some sort of proximate parking in order to facilitate individuals coming to their establishments. If cars can drop their drivers, quote unquote, off and drive to a satellite parking area, suddenly large numbers of acres become available for developments, parks, residents, commercial, what have you. Some of the disadvantages of the technology are really partly that come from some of the advantages. So for example, if the cost of driving declines dramatically because you can do other things while you're driving, well, more people may actually end up driving more miles. So in fact, it's at least conceivably possible that congestion might increase rather than decrease. Similarly, one of the sort of key comparative advantages right now of public transit is that people can do other things during their commutes and while they're being transported. If suddenly individual private car ownership allows the same benefits, the public transit system might suffer and could profoundly change public transit as we know it. Finally, there's going to be a lot of economic disruption. Currently, there's a large existing crashed economy that depends upon the regular occurrence of automobile crashes in this country. That includes automobile insurers, of course, but also trauma centers, body shops, a whole host of people whose livelihoods depend directly and indirectly on automobile crashes. The technology involves a fair number of what economists call externalities, so that many of the benefits of the technology don't necessarily go to the purchaser of the vehicle, instead go to the general public. So as a result, individual potential consumers may have a reduced incentive to purchase the vehicles. Secondly, automaker liability is likely to increase as a result of technology and sort of shifting the focus of the causation of crashes and the fault of crashes away from the individual driver to the automaker and the vehicle itself. This may cause automakers to either be relatively reluctant to introduce the technology or to want to pass the cost of the technology, the expected liability costs, onto the consumer, making the product more expensive. This is a familiar problem in public policy, and sort of the classic solution is to develop some sort of system of subsidies and user fees to try to equalize the individual benefits and the individual incentives and the social benefits and societal benefits, so that individuals pursuing their own self-interest we can end up in a situation where everyone's better off.